very proud to say that next Monday night, for reasons largely beyond my ability to comprehend them, I will be involved in the presentation of the Thurber Prize for Humor, the finalists for which are Jancy Dunn, Steve Haley, and Rhoda Jansen. They have a lot to live up to. This week, James Thurber again takes us back to his youth, indeed to the origins of the Thurber dog. His drawings of them seemed more to offer a bloodhound, but in point of fact, as tonight's story suggests, the Thurber dog had not a breed, but an awareness, bordering on becoming human. Again, we go to My Life in Hard Times from 1933, and as usual, I'm reading from the American Library, Thurber Letters and Drawings, edited by Garrison Keillor, and available without a prescription. The Dog That Bit People, by James Thurber. Probably no one man should have as many dogs in his life as I have had, but there was more pleasure than distress in them for me, except in the case of an Airedale named Muggs. He gave me more trouble than all the other 54 or 55 put together. Although, my moment of keenest embarrassment was the time a Scotch Terrier named Jeannie, who had just had 6 puppies in the clothes closet of a 4th floor apartment in New York, had the unexpected 7th and last at the corner of 11th Street and 5th Avenue during a walk she had insisted on taking. Then, too, there was the prize-winning French poodle, a great big black poodle, none of your little untroublesome white miniatures, mind you, who got sick riding in the rumble seat of a car with me on her way to the Greenwich Dog Show. She had a red rubber bib tucked around her throat, and since a rainstorm came up when we were halfway through the Bronx, I had to hold over her a small green umbrella, really more of a parasol. The rain beat down fearfully, and suddenly the driver of the car drove into a big garage filled with mechanics. It happened so quickly that I forgot to put the umbrella down, and I will always remember with sickening distress the look of incredulity mixed with hatred that came over the face of the particular hardened garage man that came over to see what we wanted when he took a look at me and the poodle. All garage men and people of that intolerant stripe hate poodles with their curious haircut, especially the pom-poms that you have to leave on their hips if you expect the dogs to win a prize. But the Airedale, as I have said, it was the worst of all my dogs. He really wasn't my dog. As a matter of fact, I came home from vacation one summer to find that my brother Roy had bought him while I was away. A big, burly, choleric dog. He always acted as if he thought I wasn't one of the family. There was a slight advantage in being one of the family, for he didn't bite the family as often as he bit strangers. Still, in the years that we had him, he bit everybody but Mother, and he made a pass at her once but missed. That was during the month when we suddenly had mice, and Muggs refused to do anything about them. Nobody ever had mice exactly like the way we had mice that month. They acted like pet mice, almost like mice somebody had trained. They were so friendly that one night when my mother entertained at dinner the Freeroliras, a club she and my father had belonged to for 20 years, she put down a lot of little dishes with food in them on the pantry floor so that the mice would be satisfied with that and wouldn't come into the dining room. Muggs stayed out in the pantry with the mice lying on the floor, growling to himself, not at the mice, but about all the people in the next room that he would have liked to get at. Mother slipped out into the pantry once to see how everything was going. Everything was going fine. It made her so mad to see Muggs lying there, oblivious of the mice. They came running up to her, that she slapped him, and he slashed at her, but didn't make it. He was sorry immediately, Mother said. He was always sorry, she said, after he bit someone, but we could not understand how she figured this out. He didn't act sorry. Mother used to send a box of candy every Christmas to the people the Airedale bit. The list, finally, contained 40 or more names. Nobody could understand why we didn't get rid of the dog. I didn't understand it very well myself, but we didn't get rid of him. I think that 1 or 2 people tried to poison Muggs. He acted poisoned once in a while. And old Major Moberly fired at him once with his service revolver near the Seneca Hotel in East Broad Street. But Muggs lived to be almost 11 years old, and even when he could hardly get her around, he bit a congressman who had called to see my father on business. My mother had never liked the congressman. She said the signs of his horoscope showed he couldn't be trusted. He was Saturn with the moon in Virgo. But she sent him a box of candy that Christmas. He sent it right back, probably because he suspected it was trick candy. Mother persuaded herself it was all for the best that the dog had bitten him, even though Father lost an important business association because of it. I wouldn't want to be associated with such a man, Mother said. Muggs could read him like a book. We used to take turns feeding Muggs to be on his good side, but that didn't always work. He was never in a very good mood, even after a meal. Nobody knew exactly what was the matter with him, but whatever it was, it made him irascible, especially in the mornings. Roy never felt very well in the morning either, especially before breakfast. And once when he came downstairs and found that Muggs had moodily chewed up the morning paper, he hit him in the face with a grapefruit. And then he jumped up on the dining room table, scattering dishes and silverware and spilling the coffee. Muggs's first free leap carried him all the way across the table and into a brass fire screen in front of the gas grate. But he was back on his feet in a moment, and in the end he got Roy and gave him a pretty vicious bite in the leg. Then he was all over it. He never bit anyone more than once in a time. Mother always mentioned that as an argument in his favor. She said he had a quick temper, but that he didn't hold a grudge. She was forever defending him. I think she liked him because he wasn't well. He's not strong, she would say pityingly, but that was inaccurate. He may not have been well, but he was terribly strong. The Dog That Bit People, Part 1. We'll do Part 2 for you next week by James Thurber. That's October 1st. It's the 2,710th day since President Bush declared mission accomplished in Iraq, the 2,299th day since he declared victory in Afghanistan, and the 165th day of the Deepwater Horizon disaster in the Gulf. I'm Keith Olbermann. Good night and good luck. And now to discuss why the Democrats need to work on offense, ladies and gentlemen, here is Rachel Maddow. Good evening, Coach.
Have you been reading my phonetic pronunciations in the teleprompter? Offense and defense?
Oh, no. You just sounded very hockey-esque right there.
Thanks, man. Hey, have a good weekend, Keith.
Hey.
Thanks to you at home for staying with us for the next hour. Like most Americans, I am extremely skeptical of sequels.